when you see this symbol, what do you instantly think of? Ladies, what do you think of when you see that symbol there? When you see the rainbow, what do you think? What do you think, madam? When you see that rainbow there, what comes to your mind? Any ideas? Sunshine, yeah, when you get sunshine and rain at the same time. Anybody think there's anything else come to your mind when you see that rainbow? Is it rainbow lady? Wonderful, wonderful. Oh,
Baby.
rainbow baby, what does that mean? Oh, I did not know that. There we go. So the rainbow baby is somebody who came after you've already lost a child. So you're a rainbow baby. That's really special. That's really good. So what's your name? I love it when they say the full name. You're still at that age where you have to say your full name, don't you? Well, I'm Paul Sparks. So it's nice to meet you, Sian. And that's Nanny. Well, you know what? You've hit the nail on the head there. And not a lot of people would say that. A lot of people would say something else, you know. Brilliant. Well, that's great to know that your mum was born again. So she's in heaven now, isn't she? Which is great. And that's what I want for everybody passing by today in South Park. I want everybody to be in heaven. So that's what I'm talking about, because some people think this is all about gay pride. Some people think this is all about the NHS. Remember when we were all clapping on the streets? When the NHS was you know, doing their thing during the pandemic, everyone came out of the streets, you know, clapping away. I obviously didn't clap hard enough because no nurses said thank you for clapping. Oh, I should have clapped a lot harder than they might have heard me from the hospital. But we were banging our pots and pans and clapping away, and it was ridiculous. But no, it's not about the NHS, it's not about gay pride. This symbol dates back thousands of years, thousands of years. The first time this was ever seen, a rainbow in the sky, because by the way, you only get a rainbow when it sunshines and rains at the same time, is when Noah's Ark happened, alright, when Noah came out of the Ark. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what this symbol means and what happened with Noah's Ark. So I see one lady smiling over there thinking, Noah's Ark? You seriously don't believe in Noah's Ark, do you? Well, I do, alright? I'm going to give you a few facts and figures about Noah's Ark today, because there's Noah's Ark, alright? And you can clearly see how big it is. It is massive. So I get a lot of people saying to me, look, the thing about Noah's Ark is, how on earth could Noah's Ark have fit all those animals on when the flood came down? And the simple answer is this. It's massive. I mean, look at it. If you come a little bit closer, you'll see just how big that is. It's 510 feet long, 51 feet high, and 85 feet wide. So it was actually bigger than the Titanic. Not quite as long as the Titanic, but wider, and had a bigger capacity than the Titanic, Noah's Ark. I bet you didn't know that. So when you're shooting through your books, you know, and you've got like your little children's Bibles, you've got that cute little boat with all the animals bursting at the seams, every giraffe sticking its head out of the windows and all the rest of it, and you're thinking, how on earth could they all cram themselves onto that boat? Well, actually, it wasn't that little tiny boat that you see in the children's Bibles. It was absolutely massive. Now, the next question is, how long did it take to build? How long did it take to build if it's so massive? Well, the Bible says it took Noah and his family 100 years to build that boat. So there's only 8 of them on the task, and that's why it took so long. But when it was finished, Noah didn't have to go around trying to find all the animals. God sent them to him, because God has no problem with the obedience of animals. Okay? He tells a fish to swallow coins, and he can pay the temple tax, and it happens. He tells a donkey to speak, it does. He tells a huge whale, or whatever the prehistoric fish it was, that swallowed Jonah, to go and swallow Jonah, and it does. He has no problem with the obedience of animals, but he does have an issue with the obedience of man, because he gives us all free will and says you can choose what you want to do. You can choose right or wrong. Alright? And as to why he allowed us to do that, that's a question for another time. But he did give us the choice of choosing right or wrong. And during Noah's time, many people chose to do what was wrong. Alright? Only 8 people, Noah and his family, chose to do what was right. Okay? So those 8 people set about to build that boat. And they built it, and then the animals came, and in they went. And all that time, Noah was preaching to the people. Just a little bit like I'm doing today on the streets of Southport. And he was saying to people, this is the only way of salvation. This is the only way of escape from the judgment to come, from the flood, from the rain to come. This is the only way of escape. That's what he told the people. But you know what? Noah was probably the worst or least effective preacher ever. It wasn't his fault, I should point out. But in all that time, he didn't have a single convert. Not one person said, "Do you know what, Noah? I believe there's a flood coming. Let me on the ark, and I'll say sorry for all the things I've done wrong to God, and I could come on the ark." Not one person in those 100 years. So there was only him and his family who got saved from the flood that came. Now, if you don't, again, you can go to America and you can see an actual ark that has been put up. And again, we've got it in rainbow colours here to remember the original rainbow that I'm talking about today. And you can go and visit that in America, and you can go and see all the floors. You can see how they housed all the animals in there. They kept the animals that would rip each other to shreds separate from each other in bamboo cages and all the rest of it. And where they kept all the food and stored all the food. And they stayed on that ark for a whole year, all right, before it eventually came to rest on Mount Ararat. And when it came onto Mount Ararat, after a few days, eventually the waters rescinded and they came out and repopulated the planet again, all right, with all the animals that were on there. But you know what happened while they were getting all the animals out? It started to rain again. Now, I don't mean a big heavy downpour like the judgment that happened just a year previously. This was just a shower, and it wasn't that bad because the sun was shining at the same time. And what happens when the sun shines and the rain comes at the same time? What happens? What do we get? What do we get? Dave, what do we get when it sun shines and rains at the same time? We get a rainbow, don't we? Yeah, we get a rainbow. So that was the first time it ever rained and sunshine at the same time. It's the first time this is a rainbow. Because it talks about previously before that, the earth being watered by a heavy mist. And that was enough for the plants, just like it is in some islands where it only rains once a year throughout the world. So that was the first ever symbol of a rainbow, the first time a rainbow appeared. And do you know what that rainbow represented? It was a promise from God. God said, "Let this rainbow in the sky be a sign to you that I will never again flood the whole earth." And sure enough, God has never flooded the whole earth ever again. All right, so because God keeps his promises. So that was a promise to us. And it's a promise to our children forever, that God will never again flood the whole earth. But let me tell you, there is another judgment coming. And it's not going to be a flood. It's going to be a judgment of fire, like this. And we need to escape God's judgment, God's wrath upon us, God's wrath and anger at sin and all the wrong things that we do. We need to escape that. And just like in Noah's day, there was only one way of escape, and it was on board Noah's Ark. And there was only one door on Noah's Ark as well, by the way. Well, there's only one way to be saved from the judgment to come, and that's through the Lord Jesus, who also described himself as the door. He is the way. He is the way to be saved, the Lord Jesus, and he's the only way. And I'll say to you this, if you say, "Oh no, all religions lead to heaven, don't they?" Well, if all religions led to heaven, why would God send his only son to be crucified on a horrible death for you and for me? If there was another way, he wouldn't have done it, would he? Even Jesus asked, "Is there any other way?" He was sweating great drops of blood in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he asked the Father, "Is there another way? If there's another way, let this cup depart from me." But there wasn't another way. There was only one way to be saved, and it was through Jesus' death on the cross. The innocent for the guilty. I'm guilty, you're guilty, we're all guilty because we've done wrong things, so God's wrath is coming. But God poured his wrath and his anger at sin on his Son instead, and he bore the judgment that we deserve. And he is the only way that we can be saved, through the Lord Jesus. So next time you see the rainbow, just think to yourself, fellas, think, what's that rainbow in the sky for? It's God's promise. God's promise that he will keep us safe from the judgment if we put our trust in the Lord Jesus. Just like Noah's Ark was the only way to be saved back when the flood came, floodwaters came, Jesus is the only way to be saved when the destruction comes that's going to come to this earth. So that's who we put our trust in. Anybody got any questions? Questions, sir?
I firmly agree with you there, mate.
That is brilliant, that. Excellent. Gets my tract. Thank you very much for listening. I do appreciate it. Take care and God bless.